All thoughts expressed in this review are based on a single theatrical viewing, and thus are subject to change at a later date. The review will contain full spoilers, and as it is an opinion-based piece, your satisfaction in watching the video is not guaranteed. Oh boy. Well, the year started off with controversy, so let's bring it to my channel with this opinion. I didn't like Frozen 2. Okay, anyone who's still watching the video, let me explain. To me, this film is an ice bubble. It's beautiful and gorgeous to look at, but unlike Avatar: The Last Airbender, there's nothing cool inside. Yes, everyone has made comparisons to this with the Four Elements thing, and I am not so high and mighty that I will not join the bandwagon. Because that is immediately where my mind went to too, and the whole Fifth Element thing only made that worse. Okay, back on topic. Now, the question everyone always asks of a sequel is it as good as the first film? Short answer, no. But before I go into old man yells at cloud mode, let's get the positive stuff out of the way. As I said, the film is beautiful on the outside, and it really is. As an animator myself, I am so jealous at how good this looks. The characters look great, the autumn palette of the world is wonderful, and the effects work just damn! Water, ice, fire, and wind are all a major pain to do, and they made them the central figures of the movie, really. And it all looks amazing. The waves, the ice, that horse. So good. And if this was only a demo reel, I'd give thumbs up on looks alone. Unfortunately, this is a feature film, and we've got to talk about the story being told with those beautiful images. And the story for me fails on all levels, both in what it is and how it's told. First thing that bothered me was that there was way too much music in this film. Looking at the soundtracks, there's only 2 more songs than the original Frozen, but oh my god, it felt like so much more. Elsa's solo number was the big hit of the last film. Give her 2 songs here. Olaf gets a song, Kristoff gets a pop ballad, everybody gets a song to express their emotions. And thanks for taking my favorite piece of music from the first film and ruining it, guys. I loved the opening chant in Frozen because it sounded like the wind itself howling through the mountains before the ice cutters took over for Frozen Heart. And now it's in here like 3 times and people are actually singing it, and it just pulls me right out. Because I know it's like this because it was popular in the original film, so let's put it in even more here. That makes it more marketable, right? Yeah, thanks, I hate it. Another thing I don't exactly hate, but makes me cringe, is the Elsa and Anna saving the North Aldrin people by breaking the dam and taming the spirits respectfully thing. An outside force having to come in to save a clearly indigenously inspired peoples. It reeks of white savior complex. Yikes. Yes, it's revealed that their mother is North Aldrin to combat this idea, but she doesn't look the way we see the rest of the tribe look. And sure, not everyone from a certain geographic location or culture have to look completely similar, but then why wouldn't you have that with the characters we see on screen? I mean, they managed it with the Arendelle guards, so why not the tribe too? And then there's this idea of them being a bridge between the 2 peoples, which does give me another positive with the reveal that Elsa and Anna's parents were trying to find something to help Elsa when they died at sea in the first movie. So it makes them not look so terrible for essentially locking their daughter away and leaving her to deal with her powers on her own. But it doesn't lead to anything. I mean, Elsa being the 5th element does what exactly aside from contradict the first film? No, Elsa, locking yourself away from everyone because of your powers is wrong. Instead, you should go live in a far north wilderness away from everyone and have apparently no role to play in their society. Hooray for character growth! This is my big problem with this film. It's utterly hollow. Now, the core theme of it, with there being ideas of transformation and change and not always knowing how things will go, but having to just take the next step and do the next right thing are good, but the execution is lacking. Because, I mean, really, how has anyone changed here? Kristoff has a song about being lost in the woods that comes right the fudge out of nowhere. Someone contact Howard Ashman from the Great Beyond to remind people how to do a transition. Then he has the line to Anna at the end that my love isn't fragile. It's a great line, but when did you learn this lesson? Olaf is still Olaf, whose antics I personally don't care for, but the kids in the audience were laughing, so as a comic sidekick, mission accomplished there. However, he has this whole song about everything making sense when he's older. His whole arc is supposed to be about dealing with things being temporary and the transient nature of life. Deep for a family film, but welcome. And it makes sense, as he would have realized by now that in summer snow melts and doesn't come back the same way the following season. But then after Elsa is frozen and he dies, and we have this nice song about grief and Anna having to move on without him, and then he comes back at the end exactly the same. Great. And Elsa, as I mentioned, seemed to regress. She's concerned about her powers. Again. She's isolating herself from others during the story. Again. She lets her hair down fully with the Show Yourself ballad. Again. And I get the visual metaphor here, but what exactly made Elsa restricted this time? We don't see her struggling with her duties as queen. We don't see her being isolated from her subjects, because the whole feast in the intro song takes place in the town square. The gang has game nights, and the only time we see her struggling with her powers is getting startled by the guard and freezing her hands to the railing, and that was played as a joke. I'm really struggling to see what Elsa's whole arc was supposed to do. And I mean, what is Elsa even doing now that Anna becomes queen? And what makes Anna a better queen than Elsa, other than the fact that she's getting married and presumably will produce an heir? I mean, sure, she had that moment of taking out the dam, of learning to do things on her own, but Elsa cut that moment off at the knees by then saving their kingdom. Honestly, I think undoing the sacrifice of Arendelle really undermined the film. And again, that whole idea of change and transition. If they had had the flooding of the kingdom stick, they could have shown the two cultures in the film becoming something new together, thus showing the two sisters as the bridge they're implied to be. Instead, Arendelle continues on just with a new queen and potentially a new trading partner. But we don't even get to see that. There are no lasting consequences here at all, and every daring decision is backed off from. Elsa goes too deep and drowns, showing her need to go it alone and isolate herself was wrong and had severe consequences, but then they back off. Olaf has his whole thing about the transient nature of life and the inevitability of change, and then he dies, making that come full circle, but they back off. He doesn't even come back changed in look or personality after this. Arendelle needs to be sacrificed for the good of everyone, and then they back off. The status quo is essentially the same. What has transformed here aside from the world having a really cool-looking season swap? And that's what truly bothers me. The themes here are great. We just don't commit to them to make them meaningful. Nothing matters at all. This film is just here to look pretty and do as little as possible. And still, I think with just a little bit more refining, it could have been great. If Elsa's journey was more clear, if Kristoff had actually gotten something meaningful to do, if any sacrifice actually mattered, we could have had great animation supporting a story that was risky and powerful. What we have now, though, is a very pretty demo reel and space for fanfiction writers to explore the lore and characters on their own. That's it, that's all, folks. So those were my initial thoughts on Frozen 3, and, at least The Rescuers Down Under no longer has to be alone in the category of being a better-looking film than its predecessor.